What's going on, everyone? I'm Jaren and Happy New Year. I know that I mentioned in my last video that I had a lot of movie reviews to cover with you guys, especially towards the end of 2023, and I'm going to get through it just very slowly. Trust me. We will be also talking about 2024 movies before like the end of this month, I promise. And I'm also going to include my usual top 10. It might crank a little higher because I saw a lot of movies this past year. Just been really tough to get in front of this camera, especially with the holidays and transitioning with the new year. I had a lot of family in town, a lot of movies to watch, like my work schedule, and I also got done celebrating my birthday. So it's been crazy. It's been a crazy last few weeks. But nonetheless, today I want to talk to you guys about one of the best movies that I had the pleasure of actually seeing maybe like 3 times between my last video, The Boy and the Heron. This story follows a young boy named Mahito who's yearning for his mother and ventures into a world that is shared by the living and the dead. There, death comes to an end and life finds a new beginning, as this is also a semi autobiographical fantasy from the mind of Hayao Miyazaki. With my recent viewing experience, I think I should stop watching movie trailers. Guys, I'm a late explorer when it comes to the world of Studio Ghibli. I grew up watching Kiki's Delivery Service because that's what played on Disney Channel like all the time. Within the last 15 years, I have seen the critically acclaimed Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle. Ever since my girlfriend Leanne and I have been together, I've been slowly trying to knock all of these movies off my list. Not necessarily just Studio Ghibli, but I know that in preparation for this movie, I ended up watching every movie done by Hayao Miyazaki, produced, written, directed, and partially animated. Once Miyazaki announced that he was coming out of retirement to do a movie called The Boy and the Heron, Leanne challenged me to avoid any sort of trailer, any sort of commercial, promo, or seeking any knowledge of the movie prior to our viewing. It was the way Japan received it because they got this movie before the trailers even got made. And I thought it was an exciting way to experience a Miyazaki film and discover it with fresh eyes and no expectations. And I gotta tell you, going into a movie blind, not knowing what direction they're gonna take or what's it even about, gave me so much anxiety, I was on edge. And I am so thankful that I got to watch this movie blind because it was just unexpectedly full of rich wonder and such an emotional roller coaster ride. Just the nuance of loving a movie before the rest of the world could peddle their opinions, before you could conceive yours. I mean, I know that might sound like it defeats the purpose of me being a critic, but it was a feeling that I was missing. It was a visual return to form where the hand drawn animation in the final product was nothing short of spectacular or breathtaking. And I've gotten so used to the modern animated movies relying so much on 3D and CGI methods that it seems as if Mr. Miyazaki has not skipped a beat in his trademark for what, the last 10 years, which was The Wind Rises. There are just seamless and flawless transitions that they just don't execute the same anymore. And I was just so thankful, so blessed to have witnessed this on the big screen. The film is also loosely based off a book called How Do You Live, and I wish they kept that original title because of how complex the ideas were, but I can see how The Boy and the Heron was a much more marketable title. And there's even a moment where our main character is gifted the book that's titled of the same, and I thought that was a nice little nod off. And the film sometimes could be a little bit of a slow burn, but that doesn't mean it's boring. Miyazaki just has a way with setting up characters with little words, setting up worlds without so much as to explain every single thing that's on the screen, and setting up lore that expands the possibilities of our understanding. In a way, this story is meant to be felt, meant to be experienced, where some of the most meditating moments are being submerged with the surroundings of what is shown instead of told. Now, before purists start judging me on which version I watched, I did grow up watching every Studio Ghibli movie with American voice talents. So, eventually I will get around to watching the original Japanese dubbed, but I was just very excited with just the English dubbed cast they had stacked. I mean, I know many others might seem standoffish, but Studio Ghibli does impressive work when they come to working with Hollywood actors. I mean, we're gonna name drop it here. We got Christian Bale, we got Dave Bautista, we got Gemma Chan, Willem Dafoe, Karen Fukuhara, Mark Hamill, Luca Padovin, Robert Pattinson, and even Florence Pugh. Hot damn, that's a great ensemble. Whether the roles were big or small, everyone delivered a very poignant and sensational performance, starting off with our protagonist, Mahito, played by Luca Padovin. Now, I'm not too familiar with Padovin's previous work, but he really held his own when it came to tackling the American lead to our star-studded ensemble. Now, there's a lot to appreciate, especially with a lot of his tone and delivery, especially with the character's nonverbal performance. This bleeds into the first act, where some time has gone by after a tragic event, and we are in the shoes of Mahito, trying to relate to him, interpret him, trying to, go through the thoughts of what's racing through his mind, his decision making, his dreams, and trying to feel what he feels. Robert Pattinson, on the other hand, has come a long way in his acting career, starting off with his angsty years like Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire to Twilight, from his hard-hitting dramas like Remember Me to Water for Elephants, to his indie days, which were, The Rover to Good Time, a resurgence in the blockbusters such as Tenet to The Batman. Pattinson has definitely shown some appreciation and excitement for his involvement here, and I do have to commend him for another spotlight-stealing performance as the Heron. I mean, it was easy to distinguish the voices of Bale, Bautista, Chan, Defoe, Hamill, and Pugh, but Robert Pattinson's coarse and low voice that he brings to the table was quite quirky and menacing. It was almost as if they were pinching his nose while he was talking, which is kind of ironic because the humanoid within the Heron has a big honker. I was just so unprepared to hear that kind of voice come out of Robert Pattinson. I mean, I told a bunch of people that I went with, and they thought I was lying up until the credits rolled. Lightly addressing the themes that are on display here, there definitely is a disconnect between nature and humanity, between the animals, the agriculture, and the elements. Mahito begins to take notice at a lot of these bizarre occurrences that begin to unravel around the estate. And just like Alice going down the rabbit hole, Mahito is lured into another dimension by the Heron, venturing into another fantastical world that is occupied by life and death. There is a lot of ground to cover when it comes to interpreting the lore and how this world works, and although many people might say that it's messy and chaotic, I think that really speaks highly of the adventure itself. While doing some research on the film for this review, I did recently find out that Hayao and his son Goro did not get along over the years, and that is because Hayao is a harsh critic and tormented artist in his own right, yet he's a very talented filmmaker, animator, and storyteller of our time. And with his career and the production of Tales from Earthsea, it really drove him and Goro apart. Hayao ended up making Ponyo as an apology movie to his son, and as most of you know, he is bound for retirement, and he did this feature as a letter to his grandson about life, about his legacy. Overall, if you're not well versed with Miyazaki's work, this might be a little dense for you. Yeah, I'm talking to you, woman who sat in front of me with her two loud-ass kids who should have gone to Trolls instead. Or maybe it just might invite newcomers to deep dive into his other movies as well, and it just embraces a lot of the imagination, the melancholy, the choices that we make for ourselves that affect everything and everyone around us, especially family. Now, if I had to compare this semi-autobiographical fantasy to anything, it's Spirited Away meets Alice in Wonderland and The Wizard of Oz. It's a blossoming amalgamation of everything you love about Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli. Sincerely, one of the best and most life-affirming movies of 2023. Well, that's all I got to share about that movie. Go ahead and check it out if you feel like it, whether it's in English dub or in Japanese. You know that it's cracking my top 10 of the year. In the meantime, thank you guys again so much for watching. Look forward to more reviews. I'm Jaren, and I will see you guys at the movies. In the meantime, take care.